to CEO Unplugged leading in the AI era. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be having our first session today, the first fireside chat between two very special guests. The podcast where today's most forward-thinking leaders shared how they are navigating the rapidly evolving world of artificial and human intelligence. In this debut episode, and I'm so excited to announce this, we are joined by two powerhouse voices in the tech and business world. Dr. Ganesh Natarajan, your host, is the chairman of GTT Data Solutions, 5Web World, and several leading organizations. With decades of leadership at companies like Aptech, Zensar, Dr. Natarajan brings a rare blend of business acumen, digital expertise, and deep commitment to inclusive innovation. He sits down today with Srikanth Velamakanni, co-founder and group chief executive of Fractal, an AI powerhouse that drives decision-making for some of the world's biggest brands. Srikanth also serves as vice chairman of nasscom and is a founder and trustee at Plugged University, where he teaches the science of decision-making. A lifelong student of math and behavioral science, Srikanth is known for his extreme client focus and long-term vision, making him the perfect guest to kick off this powerful series. So, ladies and gentlemen, get ready for a candid conversation about AI, leadership, and the decisions shaping our future. The era of dual intelligence begins now. Over to you, Ganesh.
Thank you very much, Ranita. And of course, it's a pleasure for me to lead this discussion. And Srikanth and I, of course, are old friends. And this is probably the third time we're interacting in a chat in the last 4 months. But it's always a pleasure. So Srikanth, can we just start with you? And first of all, thank you very much for being the first guest on our show. And can we start with just listening to your story? What got you here and what makes you tick?
Thank you, Ganesh. It's wonderful to be here. My story is very simple. I grew up in a pretty, let's say, middle class kind of upbringing. Father used to work for an oil company, lived in Assam, Orissa, Rajasthan, and then did my engineering from Delhi, then went to business school to Ahmedabad and started with a bank. And somewhere along the way, the entrepreneurship bug caught me. And on August 15th, 1999, I told my friend at a McDonald's that we were having just a snack. I told him, hey, Nikhil, I'm going to quit. On 31st December or earlier, I'm going to quit this. And as we turn into 2000, I will be an entrepreneur. I didn't know where that came from. It was just, I think I just channeled something. And right after that, things got into motion. I started looking for co-founders. And I didn't quit on 31st December, but I quit a month after that. And Fractal got started while I was still 25 years old. And it's been a 25-year journey of building Fractal as an AI company. And along the way, we spun out a few companies. I got invested in a few boards, and then got interested in nasscom, Plugged, etc. So everything else happened while building Fractal.
I think you're also in two amazing organizations, nasscom, of course, that both of us are part of, and Plugged, which I know is making waves in the whole STEM sector in India. But let's focus on AI and Fractal. You mentioned AI. I mean, all of us have been watching AI over the last decade or so. And I think particularly in the last 2 years with OpenAI and then DeepSeek, and now, of course, Gen AI moving to Agentic AI, things have come a long way. So for our corporate audience, can you just demystify AI a little bit? That if you kind of flashback over the last 2.5 years, what has made AI the talk of the town and the discussion point in every corporate boardroom today? So give us a little primer on AI.
Let me do this. I will give you a whirlwind overview of AI over the last, 400 years. Wow. Let's do that. I think if you go back 400 years, humans were still thinking of creating machines that could do stuff for them. So there were inventions like a chessboard where the chess pieces would move automatically. And actually what was happening was that a human being was inside the machine and moving the pieces slowly. But the idea, this has been this human fascination of a machine that can behave like human or be as smart as human for a very long time. But in the 1950s, early 1950, is when Alan Turing, the guy who actually was responsible for cutting short the World War II by almost a year because of the work that he did. He invented this machine called Bomb, which decoded German Enigma coded messages. So he built this beautiful machine using mathematics. And then once after that thing was over, he wrote a paper in 1950. It was called The Imitation Game, where he essentially said that what if you could build a machine that can match or exceed human intelligence? And if there's somebody who's having a conversation with two people, one person is a machine, one person is a human, they're in two different rooms, and this person is not able to make out which one of this is machine and which one is human, that's the day we can say that the machine has become as smart as human. He had this thought experiment. He called this the Turing test. And after that, we've been trying to build those machines. 1956, Dartmouth Summer Conference happened, where all these amazing mathematicians came together and coined the phrase artificial intelligence. And then they built this thing called perceptron, which was already doing some interesting things like playing checkers, games like that. Therefore, people got very excited that AI is going to come and machines will become smarter than humans. Huge fear, excitement in the 1950s, and lots of overpromise. Then we went through lots of rounds of disappointments. Then by the time it was 2006, 50 years later, these people who coined the phrase artificial intelligence got together again. They called it AI at 50 conference. In that AI at 50 conference, they were still discussing two main paths in which AI could go. One path was called first order logic or the rules based path. Essentially, the idea was that you take intelligence. Let's say you want to design an air conditioner that works well for you. So you want to make sure that if the temperature outside is a certain number, internally that many people, if the temperature goes above a certain threshold, I need to switch off the thermostat or I switch on the thermostat. You create a bunch of rules which you wanted to apply. Now, if it applies those rules, you can think of that air conditioner as an intelligent air conditioner. So this was the idea of rules-based logic, that we can come up with a whole host of, we can decode intelligence and put them into a machine, and the machine will act on the intelligence and be very smart. Unfortunately, it turns out that human beings work with so many rules, so many exceptions, and so many exceptions to the exceptions, that this was a never-ending task. So that was the one path. Then the second part they were thinking of was neural networks. What if we build a model of a human brain that learns with experience? You don't tell it anything, you don't give it any rules. It observes the world, it understands the rules by itself, and then becomes smarter over time. These are the two paths. That was a conversation as to which path will succeed. So 2006, it was still not clear. By 2010, it became absolutely clear that neural networks is the way to go. And neural networks were rechristened as deep learning. From 2010 to 2015, we saw image, video, voice, the ability of machines to understand image, video, voice, and create images, video, voice was started to build out. And then by 2020, we had Chat GPT predecessors. And by 2022, we had Chat GPT. So this is how AI has moved. Over the years, it has been able to, we've expanded the data, we expand the computational hardware, and we've expand on the range of techniques. And this combination of data, compute, and techniques has resulted in supreme accuracy. So today we feel like a machine can beat or exceed human beings in a broad range of tasks that you define. They already are better than that. So that's been the journey of the last 400 years of AI.
But tell me, when OpenAI and ChatGPT came in, there was this concern that with NVIDIA and the GPUs, etc., that too much of energy hogging would happen and so on and so forth. But then suddenly we started talking about small language models and narrow language models and of course DeepSeek. So are we now saying that AI is becoming a bit more accessible to everybody, every small organization, every individual as we go forward?
Things that are happening. Number one is that the cost of using a model, we call that as an inference cost. Every time you tap into a model, you pay a certain price for it through the APIs. And that price was as high as $36 per million tokens 2 years ago. Today, that cost has dropped to a few cents, 10 to 15 cents per million tokens. That's a 92% annualized drop. It is dropping by another 70-80% this year, maybe another 70-80% next year. So the cost of using AI is coming down automatically. And when the cost is coming down, it also means that the energy burden, the economic or environmental cost also is coming down. So it takes a lot of time to train, but usage is starting to become efficient. So that's one. And second, if you build smaller models, which are specific for specific purposes, they anyway consume less energy. So they can be even more efficient. In both ways, we see that AI is becoming much more accessible. It's becoming better and yet cheaper.
But tell me one thing, Aman, this whole agentic AI business. I mean, I was in the US last month and talking to one of the companies where I serve on the board, and they're building out this complete AI cluster for fraud analytics for financial services companies, where the individual is having a conversation with an AI, and then the AI has a number of, call it whatever, I call it slave AIs, who are going around and doing variations, coming back with results, and then the conversational AI is picking the right one to choose the customer. So is this like we'll just name a problem or a prompt, and the AI agents will go out and solve every problem that mankind has seen for us?
Yeah, one way to sort of think about this is that, let's say 2023, when ChatGPT was launched a few months after GPT-4 was launched, we were in the era where AI was very good at taking something, summarizing a document, generating, writing a poem, writing a document, things like that, generating images, etc. So this is all about demonstrating knowledge and creating output. It was very good at that. And we were all very fascinated with that, because if suddenly in every conference I would go, people would recite poems made from ChatGPT, and that was the thing, and that was good. It was a bit like a high school student, honestly. That's really where the status was. Like, it's a smart 15-year-old who's very knowledgeable, has read every book in the world, can summarize every book in the world, and can rattle out answers to any questions, and maybe even creative enough to write a poem. That was the state of 2023. In 2024, where we have made progress is deeper understanding, deeper mathematical, logical understanding, domain understanding. So you moving from a high school graduate to a university graduate, where if you get into deep into, let's say, medical problem, can that person really understand how the human body works, what diseases are happening, and can they reason out what could be the diagnosis to a certain set of symptoms in a way that beats the human accuracy? Or can they take a mathematics problem, like a math Olympiad problem that most of us can't solve? I mean, just let's face it, 99% of humankind can't solve a math Olympiad problem. But can it take a math Olympiad problem and solve it? And we are seeing that models can. So DeepMind's latest models are actually beating, getting math Olympiad gold medals. So that's the big change that's happened, which is moving from a high school graduate to a university graduate who has much deeper knowledge, much better mathematical and logical understanding of things, of the world. That's 2024. In 2025 is where we have the agents like you were just mentioning. These agents are like from university graduate to a working professional. Can they get real things done in the world? Can they work in an enterprise and get meaningful tasks done for me on their own? So I give them an objective and they can go and get it done. So they can think, reason, plan, and act in the real world. That's the kind of models we're moving to. And these are, you can take, for example, a very simple thing could be, hey, I'm planning a vacation and I have all the, me, I have been searching, I've been giving you my information for the last many years. You know all my preferences. Book something that meets all my preferences. So as far as me is concerned, it'll realize that, okay, I don't like hopping flights, therefore let me book direct flights. Let's make sure that there's vegan meal preference on the flights. Let's make sure the kind of countries he wants to visit, there's no visa requirements, or it's visa on arrival. It should figure out everything. It should figure out that, okay, these are the restaurants I want to visit, these are the places I want to visit, and make, not just completely configure the itinerary, but also go ahead, navigate the booking sites and make those bookings and give you the tickets back, right? You just have to give a credit card. It does everything else for you. Of course, it'll take your approvals, but it'll do it. That's the one kind of an agent. But you'll see many more agents like that that can take a task, big task, divide that into subtasks, and know your preferences, go execute those tasks and complete it and come back and say, hey, look, this is what you told me, this is what I got done for you, which is really more than you'll get from a smart assistant that human assistant that you may have today. That's really where we have reached. So this has been the progress from knowledge and summarization to reasoning and math to thinking, planning, and acting in the real world. So that's the big progress that we're seeing. So yes, it's pretty exciting. And companies like the ones you mentioned are going ahead and creating these agents that can work alongside other agents and get things done.
Well, that's awesome to see the kind of progress that's been made. I will come back a little later on the whole human in the loop kind of concept. But let's talk a little bit about your company. I mean, you said you built this company for a fairly long period of time, and it's obviously your most exciting project. And I know that you're planning an IPO at some point of time, and hopefully for all of us, Fractal becomes the most valuable AI company on the planet. So, so tell us a little bit about Fractal. I mean, how did it evolve? What is it today? What can it grow to be?
Yeah. I founded Fractal in the year 2000 with a bunch of my classmates, and it's been a 25-year fascinating journey. Throughout, there's been one thing that's been constant, which is about our fascination with decision making. How can companies make decisions? And our objective or our thesis in the beginning was that we can bring in mathematics to help companies make decisions. So very early on, the first ever project we worked on was to work with ICICI when they were building this big personal financial business, which is about living retail lending business. They had this massive ambition of scaling to 10,000 crores in the first year. And what we did was to enable them to lend better and faster through the use of mathematical models called scorecards. So we could look at a profile of a customer and we could assess a probability that somebody is going to default or not default. So that was the first thing we did. Super fascinating because I've been a math guy throughout my life. To see that math can be used to understand human behavior, the other passion of my life, I was like, this is amazing. This is mind blowing because I can connect math and human behavior for the first time. Then we did the same thing for a whole host of companies over the years. And as AI started to become more interesting and more sophisticated, unstructured data, larger sets of data, and more foundational models, Fractal has kept pace with it and has invested heavily in R&D over these years. So today we are about 3,000 crores in revenue. We serve about 150 of the Fortune 500 companies. We have about 5,500 people. So it's been a hugely fulfilling thing to watch Fractal grow and become a force to reckon with. It's a great place to work. It's got a high net promoter score. So we feel like we're in the right place at this point after 25 years. Right place, right time. So it's been fascinating to build that.
But what's the secret sauce of Fractal? In the sense that why would somebody come to a 3,000 crores very focused company rather than going to the one size fits all, the huge billion-dollar corporations who can do everything? So what's different about you?
Yeah, I think firstly, companies are different. The best way to distinguish between two companies is the culture. That's, I feel, if you take a very long-term view, only culture can be a true differentiator. So what is a Fractal culture and how is it different? Number one, extreme focus on clients, extreme taking care of people, and huge R&D spend. So spending on R&D, innovating all the time. So that's the way we think about our business. Take a long-term view, treat people well on their way in, but most importantly on their way out. So when somebody quits, how do we treat them? And at Fractal, or when an investor comes in, how do we treat them on their way out? It's easy to take an investor's money and be very nice, but when you have to give them an exit, many companies are very not very easy to work with. But we have seen investors getting really good exits from their investments in Fractal. So over the years, that's the culture we have created. I think it's a moat because I know that even after I'm gone, the company will continue to build on this and build it for the next 100 years. This long-term orientation exists in Fractal. The second is about how we solve problems. There's a lot that's happening in this space. But fundamentally, if you were to solve problems, the kind of enterprise problems we solve, just bringing in AI and saying, I'll solve all your problems and here's a box, it'll solve all your problems doesn't work. We need algorithms, but we also need end-to-end engineering of the pipelines of the organization, all the data that's flowing in the organization through all the systems. We have to think of those users, which we call as design. Now understand the users, their decisions, build the data pipelines, and build the algorithms. We call this as the AED approach, AI engineering and design approach. This is very different about Fractal. What that means is three things. One, we start with the users and decisions. We don't start with the data. We don't get excited just because we have access to data. We start with users, we start with decisions, and work backward from those decisions. And therefore, we are always focused on the outcome and value generation rather than on the techniques and technology of AI. Number one. Number two is that we fundamentally think of it as human decision making, and our goal is to power human decision making. So what we do is we understand the human rationality or lack thereof, and therefore bring in that behavioral science understanding in powering decisions. That's two. And three is that any industry that we work in, or any function, supply chain, marketing, whatever function we work in, we also try to understand the business processes well enough that we can genuinely add value. We're just not a technology company that's throwing tech at you, but we understand the business process and solving those problems. These things put together makes us someone who can drive good results, great results inside big companies. And because we are so client-centric, we have been client-centric, I think people, tend to work with us. I have so many stories where companies have. I'll tell you one of those stories. This is many, many years ago. A client of ours came and said, it was a very important client for us. Right, Fractal was a tiny company. They were about 10% of our revenues. They came and said, Srikanth, we found another vendor. You guys are very good. You've done a great job. We found another vendor. They're significantly cheaper than you. We are taking this business out from you. We said, okay, that's fine. It is what it is. I mean, we worked very hard, but it's okay. And then we worked very hard to transition this out to them, and we did an amazing job. Of course, much bigger. This multi-billion-dollar company. It was one of those multi-billion-dollar companies. It went to them. And that was it. And we were struggling because we felt that, okay, what happened? This big company has gone away from as a client. But we did such a good job of doing this transfer that this company gave us a lot more business after that. They really enjoyed seeing us work this way. So our relationship actually grew, which is surprising. We didn't expect it. And 3 years after that, another conversation, the client comes back and says, Srikanth, I know we took this business away from you. We want you to take it back. I said, really? Why would you do that? Because that company was much cheaper than us. They say, hey, look, they're actually cheap. We thought they were cheaper. They ended up being a lot more expensive than you. Because you guys have such smart people that, yes, your rate cards, etc., all those were higher, but you have so fewer people working on it. And so your price ends up being much lower than this other bigger player. So like they say, आधा किलो सर्फ 1 किलो सस्ते पाउडर के बराबर होता है. That's what happened with Fractal.
I see that. No, that's amazing. And in fact, I think what you're saying is so true. And I do hope the future generations of technology companies worldwide and of course from India will have all that you mentioned. Solid investment in R&D, which has been notably missing in the country as well as in corporate India. And then, of course, as you rightly said, the focus on customer outcomes first. And then last but not the least, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So I think that is always the case. Okay, let me switch back to the general discussion on AI. I remember a couple of months back, I was in New York attending a session with Yuval Noah Harari, and he was talking about some of the big problems that AI could create, including, of course, targeting of people. I mean, what could AI do in the hands of a dictator and so on and so forth. So, and then, of course, there's this big worry about AGI, artificial general intelligence, and superintelligence. And I was just again reading another book on how we have to, through governance, through technology, through lack of technology, prevent this super intelligence from taking over the world. What is your view? What could be the best case and the worst case scenario of the progress in AI?
Yes. Let's talk about the bad cases first, because we all are so scared of them, and a human tendency is to gravitate towards them. And it's important. I think let's first look at what do bad actors do with this. AI is a general purpose technology. It's accessible to everybody. It's dual use, civilian use, military use. It's used bad people, good people, everybody can use it. So what happens is that bad people will start using it first, and they have very strong economic motives to use it. So which means that they will use it to perpetrate fraud. They can use it to perpetrate cyber scams, or create cyber security threats, or do deep fakes, things like that. Powerful AI means that there are many bad outcomes that we have to solve. And it means that you need a far more powerful AI to be able to stop these from happening and detecting these kinds of frauds. So to counter the rise of AI in fraudulent use cases, you need the growth of AI to attack them as well. So that's the only way forward, because AI is getting better. We like it or not, it's going to get better. So might as well use AI to prevent this from happening. So if you think of deepfakes, it's being used to do so much harm in the world and harm so many lives. So we have to make sure that every video can be detected, whether it's a fake or not. If it's doctored, we should be able to watermark it in such a way that it can be clearly established that it's a fake thing. And we have to have technology by which these fake videos, especially if they're harmful to somebody, we are able to take it out as fast as possible. So that's about bad actors using bad stuff. The second one is that good actors using it in unintentional ways and creating some societal harm in the process. So that's another big danger that we have to solve for anyway. Just as an example, the thought experiment that Nick Bostrom talks about in his book called Super Intelligence, I think it's a very good thought experiment. He essentially says that think of um, you built a factory to do paper clips, and this you told the AI to maximize paper clip production. And after it goes through the usual possibilities, it figures out that, I should kill everyone in order to make more paper clips. And in that process, it might go destroy. So you may have the right objective, but you have not set up it in the best possible way. And you have a very powerful AI that goes and does a lot of damage in the process. So AI does not have any intentionality. It's not trying to take over the world. It's just trying to faithfully do what you asked it to do. But in the process, it may do something really stupid and harmful. And therefore, design of the AI system has to be with safety first. So this whole area is called AI safety. And there are two kinds of things. One is the big kill switch that you can push that button and all AI will stop. That kind of a technology where you can prevent an AI from getting out of hand by stopping it, or you have created a responsible AI framework by which you are certifying that, look, I have designed it in a way that all these bad outcomes don't happen. The chances are very low. Now let's go to third possibility, which is super intelligent AI. AI now has its own goals, and it starts to say, hey, look, you know what, these pesky human beings, let's get rid of them. Because in Yuval's point, I mean, Yuval is a really good author and a great thinker, and I have tremendous respect for him. I would say that in case of AI, his thinking is extremely pessimistic, right? Is extremely pessimistic, and some of it may turn out, but it does feel like he is making a few leaps of logic, which hopefully will not come through. But one of the things he says, which I think we should still think about, is that no intelligent no intelligent being has been able to control a being that's more intelligent than it, significantly more intelligent than it. If you look at history, we've never had a situation where a being has been able to control something that's far more intelligent than it. So the idea is that if we unleash AI into a huge monster, bigger being, it might say, hey, you know what, human beings, you're not smart enough for me, and then it will start to create its own goals. Now we don't know if that's going to happen, because will AI become conscious? Will AI have its own needs? Will it have its own objectives? Does AI work like that? I don't think it is. It is today essentially faithfully replicating what it wants us to do. It will not have any desires. It will not have any consciousness. It does not have its own needs. So I don't think that is a risk that we have to completely solve for today. Yes, as AI gets better, this AI safety might come in any way handy. But worrying about these sorts of things is like worrying about, like they say, over colonization of Mars, right? It might happen, but it's probably many, many years out.
No, that's very interesting. And so essentially what you're saying is, while we all talk about ethical AI and responsible AI, the ethical and responsible frameworks are created by us. So we can't really blame an AI for going awry if we haven't designed it properly. So I think that's a very important point.
It's a lot of work to be done to design AI systems. Well, it's not an easy job, because as things get more powerful, we have to design them even more carefully. That's the thing.
Mhm. So that kind of gives me a segue into my final theme, which is the whole concept of dual intelligence, which is something that, I mean, you can see even on the logo of our company, that we're really looking at equal importance to training of people and building of cultures, and of course for data and analytics and AI and everything else. So in that context, what is your view, Srikanth? I mean, the role of the human in the loop started off being very much a master and slave to technology. Today, as you rightly said, has moved to almost an equal relationship and potentially a more intelligent human than the human. So where do you think the human should see themselves playing a role in the present and the future of AI?
Great. I divide the world I think of it everything in terms of decision making. And I divide the kinds of decisions into strategic, tactical, and operational. And let me explain what I mean by that. You have to think of, is it a one-time decision or is it happens recurringly? Is it it has small impact or it has a large impact? Okay. If you think about that, the strategic decisions are high impact one-off decisions where you may not have that much experience. It may take a long time to play out whether it is right or wrong. For example, you bought a company, you spent $100 million to buy a company. Now, whether this is a good investment or a bad investment, it will take many years to figure out that, because you have to integrate it well and you have to forecast into the future. So it's fundamentally something that is a strategic decision. You don't have too many, you don't do it so often that you know how to do these decisions, get these decisions right. You don't have that much experience. Getting married is one thing. I mean, people get married once, maybe twice, maybe three times, but you don't have so much experience that you can get marriage right by marrying multiple people, right? It's not going to happen. So these are strategic decisions. Then we come to tactical decisions. These are day-to-day decisions where I get feedback. I may not get perfect feedback, but I get some feedback. But I have sort of some reasonably good experience. That's the second. And third is the operational decision. This is very high velocity. It's like driving a car, or a factory floor producing things, or credit decision making. It's a day. Every day you're making hundreds of these decisions, and companies would make millions of those decisions. These are highly operational decisions, and you're getting very good feedback every time whether the decision is right or wrong. That's what happens in operational decisions. So my framework for this is that if you think of strategic decision making, AI is not going to get significantly better than human beings. It is fundamentally a human realm with assistance from AI. We may get AI might summarize the data, might give us help you create a spreadsheet. It'll give you all the background materials, but it should be in the realm of human beings to make those decisions. In the second category of tactical decisions, I feel like AI assistants will do a lot of your job. AI assistants, co-pilots, agents will do a lot of the job for us, but we'll be in the loop. We will be controlling it. We will be approving it, or we might want to stop it. So we'll have complete control, but AI will start to give us very useful information that really improves our decision making and might even do parts of the job for us. Then leaves that with operational decisions. This is the one place which our human beings are not capable of doing. It's just not our forte to be so operationally plugged in and keep learning it. We have finite capacity, brain capacity, finite ability to pay attention, and therefore machine is best suited to do all the operational stuff. For example, driving a car. Right today, yes, we can all think that we are good drivers of cars, but honestly, the fact is, a million people, 150,000 people die every year in India for road accidents. America, 35,000 people die every year because of road accidents. So there's no reason human beings should be driving. Fundamentally, machines are going to be better. And we should cede control to machines. It'll all be good for us. So, for example, Waymo today is doing 250,000 rides a week in LA and 3 other cities in the US. 0 people have died because of that. Fully autonomous driving, and 73% reduction in accidents in general. So it's significantly better than human being, and this is with lots of humans still driving. When all humans give away control to drive cars to drive themselves, I think we will cut down the number of fatalities to a 0. That will be a great future to have. So operational decisions, I would think we should completely give it to machines. Yes, we should have some supervision or some human in the loop to stop that big red button that kills everything. We should have those controls, but by and large, we should cede ground to machines. That's the framework at least I would work with.
So that's very interesting. And of course, it does raise the social issue of so many people looking for jobs. What kind of jobs should they look for in future? But we won't get into that right now. But one final question to you, Srikanth. I mean, you're in a vantage position in nasscom, which obviously is a is a very, very capable body for the industry. And there is a school of thought which believes that India has kind of slipped backwards in AI. I mean, that the US and China are very far ahead of us. So from your vantage position in NASSCOM and your view on what the government is doing, the new LLM has been announced. Are we headed in the right direction? Do you think government should do more? Do you think industry should more to make AI or to make India really come to the forefront of AI?
It's no question that we all have to do more, because it is one of those most life-defining technologies, and this is a very important phase of global evolution, global macroeconomic changes, etc. I think Putin said in 2017 that whoever wins the race for AI will control the world. And since then, multiple people, multiple leaders, including our own prime minister, has made those kinds of statements. So it is a fundamentally super important technology to get right. Because for a country like us, which is the workforce of the world, right? We power so many services. We are a fifth of the world's population. We are adding 1 million people to the workforce every month. For the next 7 to 8 years, every month, India will add 1 million people to the workforce. That's a pretty large number. 1 million engineers are graduating every year. So we have such a large workforce that we have to find employment for. Therefore, if the AI thing we don't figure out well, it could be a risk for our country. Think of a country like China, which in 2017 or 18 committed 100 billion and said by 2030 they want to be absolutely number one in the world. They made a very big commitment and put a lot of money behind it. And you can see they've really expanded in terms of the papers, DeepSeek, etc. I think they're neck to neck with the US. Where is India? India is also a good player, maybe number 3 or maybe 4, but we are certainly in the top 5 players in terms of just sheer number of AI engineers that we have, sheer amount of innovation that's happening. So there is some good stuff happening. My point is that we have to think of the AGI risk or AGI opportunity and invest. We have to increase our investment significantly. We have 1.3 billion for India AI mission, about 10,000 crores. I would have thought that it should be 10,000 crores a month, not 10,000 crores a year or 10,000 crores over 3 years. That's the scale at which we have to really up the ante and make it 10x. Today, maybe we don't have the opportunities to do so. But my own thesis is that if we can create a mission and build and advertise it and get Indian diaspora to come together, come from various countries to building India's AGI capability, like we did with ISRO or we did with Bhabha Atomic Research Center. We build something like that. We have a real opportunity of being, if not number 1, but number 2, number 3 in the world in AI.
That's really awesome, Srikanth. And I mean, I just hope that the policymakers in the government are listening to you very carefully. And of course, I hope that future investors in Fractal are taking note of all the exciting things that you're going to do and the company is going to do. So thank you very much. It was, as usual, a very engaging, phenomenal session. Thank you, Srikanth.
Thank you, Ganesh. Wonderful to speak with you.